A really good friend of mine came to me recently because a year after his breakup with his ex-girlfriend, he's been thinking about having a conversation with her. And he wanted to make sure that he was doing this the right way and for the right reasons. Now, over the course of the last year, she has mentioned on a few occasions that she also would like to have a conversation with him. And so he called me so that we could talk through how he could best approach this conversation, what he wanted to get out of it, and what would make it look successful in the long term. How does he want to relate to her when they see each other in public next time? What are the pros and cons? What's the best and worst case scenario? And because you may be in a similar situation or you may have a friend who is, I wanted to talk about how to talk to your ex in the right way. So this is my practical guide to healthy communication after a breakup. And I'm going to make an important distinction here. We're going to talk about the difference between going no contact and staying friends. But I want to make it clear that those are two things that are very much on the end of a spectrum. There are lots and lots of places in between, and we'll talk about those as well. And then I'm also going to share with you some of my insights from going through a divorce and what I have learned about keeping in contact with my own ex and exes before him. All right, let's start with the question my friend asked me, which is, should you even talk to them? Whether that's responding to her reaching out to you or initiating a conversation between the two of you yourself. You should begin by asking yourself, how did the relationship end? On a scale from like friendly and amicable to badly and painfully, that's going to help inform whether or not you should even have a conversation with them. Now, if you had a amicable, friendly, relatively easy for a breakup kind of breakup, that definitely leaves you space to have a conversation. If you had an incredibly painful breakup or, both of you were very hurtful to each other, you were not your best selves during the breakup, maybe going no contact and not having any kind of conversation and getting things complete for yourself would be better. Second thing you've got to ask yourself is, do you have unresolved feelings? Are you hoping to get back together? Are you hoping for reconciliation? If they're not open to that, or if that's not really what's best for you and your best interest, then talking might set you back and cause you to sort of backpedal into an emotional space that you are trying to work out of. Another question to ask is, do you have things that you share? Kids, business, property, friend groups. Being considerate of those things means that the way that you communicate, if you're not communicating about those things, then the purposes of that communication should be really, really clear. Otherwise, you may actually do those things a disservice. Like, you want to think more than just about what you want of this relationship and beyond to all of the other people that will be impacted by your communication and by the state of your relationship with your ex. Another question to ask yourself is, what is your motive? And you should talk about this with your guy friends and with women in your life that you feel safe having this communication with to get super duper clear on your motive before you go into the communication. Maybe you have a motive of getting closure, of feeling like, you're sharing important reflections and hearing how you could have been a better partner so that you can take that with you into a future relationship. Maybe your motives relate to shared community, shared obligation, your children. If one of your motives is just to develop and sustain a mutual respect for one another or to have a healthy relationship moving forward, those are all great motives to engage in a conversation with. An unhealthy motive may look like hoping to rekindle without, being very clear that that is the purpose. If you communicate that, it's kind of a murky area there. But an unhealthy motive would be avoiding loneliness, wanting to guilt trip them, wanting to get back at them, or needing validation from them. I want to caveat all of that by saying that if you have learned some things about yourself, maybe you've been in coaching or you've been doing some personal development work and you have some insights that you want to share with her, oh my God, I realized that I was being very avoidant in our relationship, or I was being really anxiously attached to you and that really wasn't fair to you, or the things that I did or said, those were unhealthy. Getting clear on those and taking accountability for those is a good motive. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're seeking validation, but if you are saying all of that because you want them to pat you on the back and let you know you're doing a good job, or if you're saying that in order to trash them and let them know how much they hurt you and how much you've kind of realized since that breakup that they were a piece of crap, that's not a healthy motivation. Okay. Now, another thing to consider is not using friendship as an excuse to stay connected if you just feel lonely and you don't want to do the work into creating new relationships, or if you're hoping to rekindle a previous relationship. I have more to say on that from personal experience, and I'll get to that later. So you've decided that you are going to have a communication with them. Here's how to do it healthily. Number one, create boundaries. Decide how and when and why you're going to communicate. Decide that with yourself, share it with her, and also consider like how long you're going to communicate for. Like, we're going to communicate in a one-on-one scenario in like a private space that's not personal to either one of us, but we know we're not going to be interrupted by like a waiter or a kid. And then we're going to set aside 2 hours to have that communication. And if we both want to add 1 more hour after that, we can, but we won't go past 6 p.m. Those are all really, really good boundaries. Other great tips for boundaries include like sticking to the conversation at hand, setting the communication guidelines. You know, we're here to talk about our relationship versus we're here to talk about our kids. Those are 2 different conversations, and avoid mixing those up. Avoid bringing up stuff that you've agreed not to bring up, and then hold them accountable as well. Like, hey, you said that we were just going to talk about our co-parenting and we're not going to be bringing up old stuff that is emotional from the past. There are also like a ton of apps that will help you to maintain those sort of guidelines and boundaries around what you need to communicate about without having a whole bunch of other communication need to enter the chat. On the other hand, if you decide that you're going to go no contact, that means no contact. Give yourself a time frame of a minimum time frame at least. That means no checking in on them. That means no randomly texting them about something. That means not even looking for an excuse like, I forgot the password to this email address. Do not contact them. This is really important because your brain needs to process that that person is gone, like as if they were dead gone, right? And if you buried someone, you wouldn't be like in text communication with them or even seeing them on Instagram, right? You would be not seeing them at all because they would be dead and buried. So treat your ex as if during that no contact period, and maybe even after that, like they're f***ing dead. They don't exist anymore. You can't have a conversation with them, so don't even try. Reset that password on your own. I know you've got it. And finally, I think this is just really important for us to mention, guys. Like, let's talk about how you can protect your heart. I already mentioned setting boundaries and acting like your ex is dead. So unfollow them, mute them on your social media, wait 24 or 48 hours and see if you can resolve that thing for yourself. Maybe it was just a moment of loneliness. Maybe you really don't need to ask her, you know, where those files are stored on your shared Dropbox or whatever it is. Don't send emotional texts and don't reach out when you're lonely. Call your friends and family instead. And if you were like a lot of men and after you break up, you found that like you didn't have a lot of close friends because your wife or your girlfriend was the one who was doing all of your social arrangements and handling all of your sort of like social relationships, now's a great time for you to go make some new friends. I made several videos about this. You can go watch those. It doesn't have to be difficult. In fact, I would invite you to consider that you are withholding yourself from male friendships right now. Male friendships with men who are maybe going through the same thing that you are, and you could have their back and they could have yours, and y'all could like be going to the game together, skating together, golfing together, whatever your thing is. That is actually one of the best ways for you to heal. Healing happens in community. It happens with other relationships. If you know what and why you want to get out of a conversation, and you know that you've already done the work of saying this is the best case scenario and here's the worst case scenario, and I'm willing to live with the worst case scenario, and I also am recognizing I'm not going into this conversation having the hope that she's going to have changed or she's going to do or say anything else other than what she has done and said in the past. I'm not going to say you have my blessing because there's still more things you got to think about, but at least you have my blessing to think about those things. How about that? Now, as you may know, I went through a divorce and then a breakup back to back a little bit over a year ago. And I have done a lot of thinking on both my experience and the experience that my exes had during that time period. And I'm posting a special bonus video explaining all of that and my deeper thoughts on it on my Patreon. So if you would like to have access to that little corner of my mind, here's some personal stories from me, and take this content a little bit deeper as I digest it through my own life and share it with you, please join me over there. Not only do you get multiple bonus videos for being a Patreon member, you also get access to Ask Me Anythings where you can get coaching from me, and you get to watch all of my videos that come out on YouTube a week early without any ads, and there are other benefits to being a Patreon member as well. I hope that you will join me over there. I'm Caitlin B. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you here later this week and on Patreon. Bye.